Hey, this is Andy with Rocket City Pinball. Today I'm going to show you how to install my opto covers for King Kong Myth of Terror Island. I have two different versions available. One is just a very simple, small, singular unit here, and it'll include two black screws. Or I have a beautifully detailed Empire State Building version that includes a custom mount with a screw and also will include the two black screws. So the reason for this mod is I haven't been a fan in recent years how Stern has started using these opto sensors and leaving them exposed. So you can see this one right in the back here. I mean, it's directly in view of the player, and you can see the solder pads, you can see the wires, and it's just really ugly. So I wanted to hide that. So for the simple version of the opto cover, I've specifically chosen this purple. It has a little sparkle to it so that it helps kind of blend in with some of the artwork you see back here. But once this is installed in place, you would see that it covers up the opto and it just kind of blends into the artwork behind it. And we'll install that to see what it actually looks like. But the other thing was, I thought about King Kong. You know, what's King Kong without the Empire State Building? And there is no representation of it here in the game. So this spot, this crook in this ramp right here, seemed like an ideal spot for an Empire State Building because you could consider your ball like the biplane, and it travels up and around, flying around the building. In fact, you got biplane down in here, you got another one here, so it seemed like an ideal spot for the Empire State Building. So I wanted to use that as the opto cover itself. So let's start with the simpler version. Because I know there's a really cool biplane mod out there that has like a big biplane that actually is on a motor and it flies around like this, and the Empire State Building is not going to fit with that particular mod if you have it. So if you don't have it, or if you just want something simple, let's show you how to install the simple one first. It's actually pretty easy. All you have to do is remove these two screws. You would want to do this preferably with a screwdriver tip that is magnetized, so that you don't drop these screws. Once you remove those screws, the opto will just kind of float there because the wires are kind of holding it in position, so it's not like it's going to fall down inside the game. Anytime you do any work in the game with anything touching anything electrical, you should turn off the power to the game. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to cut off the power. You do want to have your game, the playfield, pulled out as I show right here to give you better access to this area. Otherwise, it's hard to get a screwdriver in here. So let's cut the power to the game, and let's take those two screws out. Okay, with those two screws removed, you can see the opto, like I mentioned, is just kind of hanging out there because it's kind of supported by the wires. It is loose, but it's just hanging there. So then you would bring in your custom opto cover here, and you would just seat it up in place like so. It should line up with those holes, and you'll bring in those two black screws that I gave you, because the silver screws are still going to jump out at you. They're really too bright and ugly, so the black screws will blend in better. You see, they actually got smart and they used black screws over here to blend in better. So why they didn't over here, I don't know. But yeah, so start with the hole in front, and then when you get to the hole in the back, you may need to reach behind here where my index finger is. You may need to reach around behind just to help make sure you keep the opto in place. So let's install those two screws and see what this looks like. Okay, with one screw in, as you tighten this down, the opto has a tendency to kind of rotate on you this direction. So like I said, you can reach back here with an index finger or pinky finger and just pull the opto back into alignment. So then you can install the second screw from the top. Once you have both screws installed, then you're pretty much done and we're ready to go put the playfield back in the game. But before we do that, anytime you mess with an opto sensor, you probably want to verify that it's back in its ideal position. So you'll want to go into your diagnostics on your game and go into your switch tests. And then you can test it with your finger if you want, but I see it's here at chiming that I got in there, but I always recommend you do it with a ball because sometimes the switch is not in the same position when you stick your finger through than if you run it with a ball. So there you go. So opto sees the ball where it should. Okay, so let's put this playfield back in the game and let's take a look at how this looks under normal conditions. Okay, and as you can see now, instead of having an ugly opto sensor back there with solder pads and wires, now it just kind of blends in and disappears because of the color choice in that purple. It blends in with that area very well, and so your eye will no longer even notice it, and it'll be nice and clean. Okay, so that's the simple version. If you're going to install the Empire State Building version, let's take a look at that and see how that one differs. I'm going to start by removing that one and getting ready to install Empire State Building. Okay, for the Empire State Building version, you have this special mount that I've designed, and it's a pretty weird shape. So you're wondering, why is this such a weird shape? Well, it's a weird shape for a couple of reasons. First of all, one of the reasons is once this is installed, the Empire State Building couldn't sit all the way to the back, because if it did, when you go and you slide the playfield back into place, it is quite tall, and so as you rotate the playfield back up into place, there was some interference issues with this area back here. So I had to make it a little bit longer to push the Empire State Building a little bit more forward to provide adequate clearance for all positions of the playfield as you push it back in and rotate it up to get it in place. The other reason it's kind of this weird shape is these plastics back here are not a perfectly flat angle, so there's a little bit of an angle, a little bit of a lean to this bracket, and that helps position the Empire State Building in an orientation where it's nice and straight up and down, and it also helps force the side of the building up against this this metal side here. That's the rail car ramp, so it'll force it up against there and force it to sit down on top of that plastic. So that's the reason for this weird shape. It took a lot of iteration to get it to sit just right, but that's how it's going to go. So first thing you're going to do is you've got your Empire State Building here, and you flip it over to the back side. You'll notice a pilot hole started right here. You'll also see this little groove in the back, and the bracket has a similar outcropping that fits in that groove. Sorry, it's not focusing. There you go. So it has a little outcropping on the front side, and that sits in that groove, and with the outcropping all the way to the bottom of the groove on the building, the screw hole will line right up. So you're going to take a screwdriver and just screw that in until it's flush with the building. Okay, so the screw is tightened all the way down. You can see it's nice and flat against the building on the sides and the top. Again, if you look at it from afar, it does look kind of cattywampus, but that's by design to help push the building into the proper orientation and account for the angle of the ramp cover there. Okay, so the next step is just like the other cover. You're going to bring in these two black screws, and you're going to install them at these two locations through the plastic and through the opto sensor. So it's going to sit right here just like this. Again, like the simple one, I recommend you start with this screw right here. Make sure you got a good grab on the opto, and then if you need to, you can reach around back here with your pinky and rotate the opto into place to thread in the other screw. Okay, now once again, so now we've got the two fasteners installed, so the Empire State Building is positioned just right. You can see it's sitting nice and flat against the bottom plastic, and it's anchored up against the side there. Once again, since we've messed with an opto, let's just verify our opto is in the right position. So I'm in my switch tests, take a ball, just run it through the ramp. Okay, opto sees it. Okay, so let's lower this back down and put it in the game and take a look. Alright, as we're putting it in the game here, I did just want to show you how close the clearance is on a lot of this. So you do have the freedom of motion in any position of the playfield as you're taking this in and out, so it's not going to make contact. You can rotate up and down. But again, this was part of the reason why I had to position the building a little bit further forward, just to make sure you had enough clearance here. So once your playfield is set in place, you see you have just enough clearance to get your glass in with no problem. And there you have it. So let's take a look further back. And so there's your Empire State Building. Let's take a look at that in play. So there you have it. That's Rocket City Pinball's Empire State Building opto cover mod for King Kong Myth of Terror Island. I really like it. I'm really happy with it. Nice detail. Initially I was concerned too, because I know that this back corner is kind of island stuff, but if you look at the artwork, the cityscape starts right here. So from here on over is all city. So it still fits in there. And having brought the building forward a little bit, not only to alleviate all the clearance, it also keeps it away from the sign back here, so it doesn't block your view of the sign. So looks great. If you have any other questions, let me know. RocketCityPinball.com. Also check out my other mods. I have the Temple of Kong mod based on the artwork of the playfield over here, with a ominous fire inside and the statue of Kong on top and some growth overgrowing. I also have a Go Ape Again light corrector. The original light right here doesn't really light up. Oh, sorry. Noisy. The original light here doesn't light up very cleanly, so I've got a mod that helps make this nice and bright and clean, and also purple. I also have custom start buttons for the premium. We have a propeller to finish out the propeller on the plane. On the Pro and the LE, I have a version of the start button that's representative of this design. And coin reject buttons featuring the gong. So reach out if you have any questions. RocketCityPinball.com.